Canada will recognise the state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly in September.
Israel and the United States have criticised the decision by President Macron of France to recognise a Palestinian state in September.
Today, Ireland, Norway and Spain are announcing that we recognise the state of Palestine.
For decades, Palestine was treated as a diplomatic taboo, a word whispered behind closed doors, avoided in press conferences, and dismissed in resolutions. But now, something has changed. From Madrid to Dublin, European nations are breaking ranks, formally recognizing Palestine as a state. Why now? What changed? And what does this signal, not just for the Middle East, but for the West itself? In May 2024, 3 European nations, Spain, Ireland, and Norway, made a historic decision. They officially recognized the state of Palestine. Following the lead, and moved by the horrific humanitarian conditions in Gaza, the UK, France and Canada have promised to recognize Palestine by the end of 2025. They weren't the first. Sweden did the same back in 2014. And across the global south, from Latin America to Africa to Asia, over 130 nations had already recognized Palestinian statehood long ago. But these new recognitions are different. They come from the heart of the West, EU members, NATO allies. And that makes all the difference. October 7, 2023, was a turning point. After the Hamas attacks and Israel's brutal response in Gaza, the world watched a humanitarian catastrophe unfold in real time. The result? Outrage. Not just in the Arab world, but across Europe. From student encampments in Dublin to Muslim voters in Oslo, pressure mounted. These governments were forced to respond. And for many, recognizing Palestine wasn't just a diplomatic move, it was a moral one. 7th October 2023. Hamas and its allies attacked Israel in a multiple-pronged operation named Al-Aqsa Storm. After invading into Israel, they killed 1,195 people and took 251 people hostage back to Gaza. Hamas officials stated that the operation, named Al-Aqsa Flood, was a response to Israel's ongoing violent raids and confrontations with worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in occupied East Jerusalem. They added that it also aimed to draw global attention to the worsening conditions faced by Palestinians in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. October 8, 2023, Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group, announced it had fired guided rockets and artillery at 3 Israeli positions in the Shebaa Farms area, declaring the attack was carried out in solidarity with the Palestinian people. The Shebaa Farms territory, claimed by Lebanon, was seized by Israel during the 1967 Six-Day War. October 27, 2023. Ahead of its ground invasion launched on October 27th, Israel ordered more than 1 million Palestinian civilians in northern Gaza to evacuate, while continuing its aerial bombardment of the territory. Soon after, the world was astonished by the scale of devastation brought upon Gaza by the IDF. Allow us to give you the latest picture of Gaza for a better comprehension. As of July 8, 2025, satellite imagery by UNOSAT shows that approximately 78% of all buildings in Gaza, around 192,812 structures, have been destroyed, severely damaged, moderately damaged, or possibly damaged. This includes 102,067 destroyed, 17,421 severely damaged, 41,895 moderately damaged, and 31,429 possibly damaged structures. He Education Cluster further reports that 91.8% of school buildings, 518 out of 564, have been directly hit or damaged, necessitating full reconstruction or major repairs. The IDF is also responsible for mass internal displacement that amounts to ethnic cleansing, according to some observers. Human Rights Watch, citing the UN's Emergency Relief Coordinator, estimates nearly 1.9 million Palestinians, almost 90% of Gaza's population, have been forcibly displaced. By late December 2023, OCHA estimated 65,000 housing units destroyed and 290,000 units damaged, leaving over 500,000 people homeless. Israel's control over the availability of resources for sustenance was complete over Gaza even before the war started. Israel deprived Gazans from water and electricity, making them an apparatus of war and ethnic cleansing. Reputed organizations such as Amnesty International and UN have called this a war crime. By far the most heartbreaking and outraging consequence of this war has been the man-made famine and starvation.
A UN-backed monitor has in the last hour said that the worst-case scenario of famine is playing out in the Gaza Strip. Whilst not being an official declaration of famine, the Integrated Food Security Phase classification says there is mounting evidence of widespread starvation, malnutrition and disease, and it's driving a rise in hunger-related deaths. It says the threshold for famine has been reached in Gaza City.
IPC alert reveals that 2 of the 3 core famine thresholds have already been breached in parts of Gaza. Specifically, food consumption and acute malnutrition rates have reached famine levels, and acute malnutrition among children under 5 in Gaza City has soared to 16.5%, 4 times higher than 2 months earlier. The large-scale destruction of Gaza's infrastructure and population sparked a global outcry, shaking the international community to its core and driving thousands to the streets. In protest, they demanded complete cessation of hostilities and the lifting of blockade over Gaza. Constant pressure and the shift of public opinion compelled countries to take a humanitarian stance. European countries, Norway, Spain, and Ireland, recognized Palestine, while France, the UK, and Canada hinted they may follow, depending on domestic and diplomatic conditions at home and the humanitarian situation in Gaza. On the other hand, Germany, Italy, the US, and much of Eastern Europe is reluctant, citing the need for a negotiated settlement before recognition. Why are we witnessing this rather rare split within the EU and NATO? The primary reason is the possible US backlash. The US is against unilateral recognition of Palestine by any European state or any other state it enjoys influence on, while the Arab nations are urging global community to recognize Palestinians' statehood. Chris Doyle, director of the Council for Arab-British Understanding, told Middle Eastern Eye that a Franco-British recognition would be to acknowledge the Palestinian right to nationhood and to be equal partners in any future negotiations with Israel. The second reason why European countries are hesitating to recognize Palestine is NATO's ties with the IDF. IDF functions as the front state for NATO in the Middle East present on the field. It is crucial for NATO's influence over Middle East and Arab nations. Israel has a dense ecosystem of cyber firms and government units with operational experience in cyber defense and offensive cyber. European states, facing increasing cyber attacks on infrastructure, government systems, and supply chains, turn to Israeli technology and expertise for tools, training, and incident response. This relationship is a two-way street. While many NATO members depend on Israel for cutting-edge cyber capabilities, counter-terrorism expertise, and advanced defense technology, the ongoing war has sparked controversy. Whistleblowers, including former employees of major tech firms and defense contractors, have publicly protested against the transfer of US and European technology to Israel, arguing that it is being used to fuel military operations in Gaza. These revelations have intensified debates within Western governments about the ethics and legality of such cooperation during active conflict. Israel has a very robust counter-terrorism and intelligence network. Israel's security services like military intelligence, Mossad, Shin Bet have long operational experience with insurgent terrorist networks, urban warfare intelligence, and human intelligence in the region. European intelligence services that face terrorist threats, either homegrown or inspired by Middle Eastern groups, exchange real-time intelligence with Israel, hence making Israel an indispensable ally. Governments balance domestic political pressure, humanitarian outrage, constituent views against national security needs. That tension explains why some NATO members are cautious about moves that might imperil security cooperation. Domestic politics heavily influence Western responses to Israel and Palestine. In the UK, for example, Labour's Keir Starmer only moved toward recognizing Palestine after intense pressure from MPs worried about losing pro-Palestinian voters. In Spain, Prime Minister Sanchez faced backlash from right-wing rivals, even though most Spaniards supported recognition. Europe has a historical pro-Israel bent, which gives rise to institutional inertia, too. In the Czech Republic, lawmakers remain vastly more pro-Israel than the public, highlighting how elite views can resist change. But public opinion across Western Europe has turned sharply against Israel, with favorability at record lows. Political leaders now balance moral calls, voter moods, and constitutional ties. None want to miscalculate. We are witnessing a shift of times because it was hard to imagine a decade ago that major European countries like the United Kingdom and France will unilaterally recognize Palestine. Let's see how it changes the balance of power. Recent recognitions by countries such as Spain, Ireland, and Norway strengthen Palestine's political standing with the ICC. These recognitions signal broader acceptance of Palestinian statehood and bolster its credibility as a legitimate actor in global diplomacy, making it harder for opponents to challenge ICC jurisdiction on political or procedural grounds. Similarly, recognitions will add more weight to the genocide case filed by South Africa against Israel. Recognition by states like Spain, Ireland, and Norway isn't just symbolic. It reshapes the diplomatic landscape. Today, Palestinian statehood is officially recognized by about 147 UN members, putting it firmly within the world's majority consensus. In May 2024, the UN General Assembly's Resolution ES 1023 empowered Palestine with new rights, like speaking among member states, proposing amendments, and joining committees. Even without voting power, these tools dramatically elevate its influence within the UN. And when Western democracies step into that recognition, it sends a powerful message. Palestine isn't a future possibility. It has a growing seat at the world's table. When European democracies recognize Palestine, it pressures Israel diplomatically and nudges both sides back to the negotiating table, for fear of growing isolation and weakening legitimacy. As noted in the Financial Times, these recognitions reflect a shift driven by frustration with Israel's policies under Netanyahu and signal growing disenchantment among traditional allies. Saudi commentator Ali Shihabi argues that recognition isn't symbolic, but a strategic imperative, necessary to counter hopelessness, radicalization, and the growing threat of annexation. He contends it empowers moderates, boosts state institutions, and lends diplomatic weight to peace talks. So, we're left with a question that's as old as the conflict itself, but sharper than ever in this moment. Does this wave of recognition mark the start of a genuine political shift in the West's approach to Palestine? Or will it fade into the history books as another symbolic gesture, swallowed by the endless cycle of violence and diplomacy? Because here's the truth. Recognition changes the map, but not the reality on the ground. Gaza is still in ruins, millions remain displaced, and trust between leaders is at rock bottom. And yet, for the first time in years, the political weather is changing. The taboo is broken. The lines are moving. And in a conflict defined by decades of stalemate, even a small shift in the balance can reshape the future.